All right. Okay, so free practice one is over in Miami, and with me to discuss what went down is Mustafa. My name is Afolabi. It's Formula One again after 5 weeks of break.
Yeah, do you have the results? What were the top times for qualifying? I know that Leclerc had the fastest time, and
Yeah,
who else?
Leclerc,
Do you have the list here?
1 minute 29.31 seconds. Leclerc, Verstappen just behind him with 2.97 seconds. And then Oscar Piastri, Lewis Hamilton, Kimi Antonelli, six, George Russell, seven, Lando.
Yeah. So we're gonna start by this. Mercedes has been caught very quickly. They didn't do a sim qualifying today because the trick. It's not the trick that they've been using isn't the compression. The trick they've been using is that coming in on a straight, you have to ramp down before you go into the corners. Or, and this is where the rules are crazy, or if you had an emergency breakdown before, then you don't get penalized. Either you ramp down gradually or you had an emergency. But this is bullshit because the rule is meant to be to gradually ramp down for reasons of battery preservation. But if that doesn't happen, then if there's a emergency, so what Mercedes has been doing, which is why they always have all these emergency signals, is and look like they're unstable coming into the corners, is that they don't ramp down, they get a ton of power, and then when they get very close to the point at which if they didn't ramp down, they all of a sudden have a system failure, which says, "Oh, we slowed down at the last minute because we had an accident." They couldn't do that today, and therefore Antonelli and Russell were scared to put in a quality time because they know that they've been hidden. Another thing that's been changed is that when the temperature reaches 130 degrees Celsius, they now redo that compression test when it reaches that because there's a idea that when the temperature raises, Mercedes finds a way to expand its elasticity of it, compression to do that. So those tests, so they've been hidden. We still believe that Mercedes probably still has one lap pace in sim qualify over everybody else, but it's been greatly diminished. What are your thoughts of Falabi?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think they've been caught just as you said it. Basically, I mean, you can see the zero point 0.7 seconds deficit to Ferrari in the lap. This is quite significant. And if you look at if you compare Ferrari to Mercedes, Ferrari was more stable, more balanced, fast on all compounds, but Mercedes looked very picky and inconsistent, especially their power units. I don't know what happened to their power units. And if you look
Yeah,
at Ferrari, they seem to have a platform advantage, not just the setup. So if you look at the clamp down, FIA clamp down appears to have removed some advantages that Mercedes had before.
yeah,
Because I don't think it's just a performance dip. It looks like there's a disruption in their
yeah.
concept.
Because what's happening is that Mercedes doesn't have that trick anymore, where they can
Yes.
do it. They can do an emergency override
And
just
I don't
before the
think
end.
it's something they can fix quickly.
No, no, no. It's not an inherent problem. What they've been doing is they
Okay.
found a loophole in the rule. They haven't been gradually slowing down on their entrance into corners. They've been kicking in that emergency at the last moment where they've already gained momentum. And they can't do that today. So they're hiding the fact that they don't have that performance. And now Ferrari has better straight line speed because they have their Macarena wing and they have aerodynamic stuff, which increases straight line speed through anti drag, through not having drag, through reducing drag. Mercedes has been relying on compression and loopholes to take a lot of speed into the straights. So they don't have the same straight. So right now, Ferrari has the number one straight line speed. But here, we've been talking on our show now that did you read what they said about McLaren? They're gaining more kinetic energy on high speed corners. You saw that.
Yeah.
McLaren has more energy on sector one because it harvests through kinetic energy rather than harvesting and it gets a boost into sector two. They have the fastest, but Ferrari has the fastest on sector three, which is the high speed straights because of the aerodynamics. But Piastri did very well, came second, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
Piastri came second.
No, I
And
think
Norris was on a hot.
Piastri came third. I think it was Verstappen that came second.
Oh, Verstappen came second. We'll talk about Verstappen later. So Piastri came third, but Norris hypothetically should have had the fastest time if he didn't have to bail out of his lap because he gained so much time in sector one. So going back to what we say, McLaren doesn't have the most straight line speed at the back end, but they have the best high speed section, which is sector one, because of their balance and their ride quality. which gives them the ability to do the free flowing corners and things like S's and harvest energy and build up so much momentum into one and two. And also McLaren is doing best on sector two, which is low speed, along with Ferrari, which is close to them, because on the low speed cornering, balance is also important and traction is important, which Mercedes isn't good. Mercedes has lost its main advantage, which is on sector three, which is the high speed sector, because they're not allowed to use their compression loophole and their loophole of not gradually slowing down. So Norris would have had the fastest time by probably a tenth of a second, which goes to show us that McLaren is catching up. McLaren doesn't have the aerodynamic efficiency of Ferrari with those wings and stuff, but Ferrari is getting most of their time on sector three because of their wings. But the data shows us that McLaren is holding back in sector one and two and has advantages in that, basically because of their stability, their ability to ride curbs, and they're the best in high speed corners because they have so much balance. And while they're going through high speed corners, they don't have to harvest and therefore lead to clipping because they use kinetic energy rather than anything else. Now we're going to talk quickly about Mercedes. I mean, not Mercedes, Red Bull. Red Bull uses the Macarena wing that Ferrari uses, so they're getting more speed on the straights. And also, Red Bull has lightened their car. They've made their car lighter because it was too heavy. They've made it more aerodynamically efficient, and they've gotten their software better so that there's not as much chaos between the electrical power unit and the way it delivers torque to the tire. So it's more stable, which is why Max Verstappen is looking fucking dangerous. What are your thoughts, Falabi?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, Verstappen did very well. I mean, he appeared visibly planted through the high-speed sweeps of Sector 1, and he seemed to lose some time to Leclerc in some slow-speed traction zones of Sector 2. But all in all, he did very well. I think the engineers seem to have smoothed out the transitional instability between high downforce mode, Z mode, and the low drag X mode. So early in the season, some teams struggle with the abrupt balance shifts, but it appears their engineers in Red Bull have figured this out. And if you look at his onboard footage in Miami, it showed a highly stable platform, especially when he was deploying the X mode down the massive straight at the back. So this indicates that Red Bull has refined their suspension kinematics to handle shift in
Yeah,
aerodynamic load, and it shows in his performance in this
they did a
particular
lot of work.
practice. Yes.
They did the most body work because we know that they have the best engine in F1.
Yeah.
Apparently, I'm not.
I,
I'm
I
not a
knew I
genius.
knew Mercedes couldn't run away with it. People are adapting really, and they're
No,
adapting
what
quickly.
Mercedes has been doing is they've been using cocaine. Cocaine gives you a high burst of power.
And
They've
then
been
it
using their
drops you to the
compression.
floor. Yeah.
Yeah, and they try to pretend like they're not worried. It is very telling that they didn't do a high speed quali sim because they knew they would be exposed because of their tricks. Mercedes is in real trouble. I still think McLaren is the best car. Ferrari has improved their aerodynamics, but they still don't have the same type of software mapping that Mercedes and McLaren have. So, and we know that uh, Norris was going to have the fastest time. So I think overall, McLaren came out best today in showing that they have the most versatile car. But kudos to Ferrari because Ferrari has handled everything in which a car should truly be. They've handled mechanical grip, downforce, and aerodynamics. I just don't think they have the same powerful engine and software that McLaren and Mercedes have. What do you think?
You're absolutely right. They have a very strong platform. And back to McLaren, McLaren is also at or very close to Mercedes level, especially in single lap pace. So I believe that Mercedes isn't just behind one team, which is Ferrari. They are now in a three-way fight where they may be third if care is not taken. Because I
Yeah.
mean, everybody has effectively caught up with them, and they risk falling behind unless they quickly stabilize their power unit, which is basically the problem they faced in this particular free
Yeah,
practice.
they've been taking shortcuts. They've been taking tricks and
Yeah,
shortcuts.
yeah.
All right, Afolabi. Any last thoughts before we get out? This is we still have qualifying later today, but I'll see you, Afolabi, tomorrow to talk about the results of after the qualifying for the main race because we'll have the sprint race tomorrow and we're having the sprint qualifiers later today. Last thoughts, Professor Afolabi.
It's just heartwarming that the Red Bull engineers seem to have smoothed out their transitional instability because it would have been embarrassing if Red Bull came into this race with all the issues of the first quarter. But it looks like they're ready now, and
Well, you know what it is?
Yeah,
Max Verstappen will leave. I'm sure Raytheon gave them money. They said, boy,
absolutely.
Raytheon,
Absolutely.
Raytheon and Iranian missile scientists say we cannot have
Yeah.
Max Verstappen go to GT3. We must
Yeah.
give him aero efficiency.
I think he just told the engineers, you either sink or you swim. I'm living here, basically.
or you think and and GT3 swim.
Yeah, just basically that's it. So I
All
think it's
right, Paul, beautiful
coming to
show.
find that Verstappen finished second in the free practice one. Early doors, but it's an improvement. Take it as it is. I think it was a good performance, all in all. The Red Bull engineers are supposed to be lauded in this one. So it's been another brilliant Formula One show. We'll be discussing the FP1 of Miami after 5 weeks of break. And from Mustafa and myself, we'll be back again tomorrow. Bye for now.
I feel like we just pulled off the magic of bullshitting. You know what I'm saying?
Isn't
But we're
that what
telling the truth.
F1 is under the new regulation?
Kids, don't try this at home. This is what is what do they call it, Ori head. This is what is head. All right, nice one. Thank you.
Okay, all right then.
I'll see you
Yeah,
later
yeah.
tomorrow. Okay.
Okay.